The medical bay of the Corthian Endeavor hummed with the usual sterile efficiency that characterized all Galactic Council vessels. Dr. Sarah Nolan sat on the examination table, her legs dangling over the edge as Tavrek, the ship's chief medical officer, ran another scan over her arm. "This is unprecedented," Tavrek muttered, his four amber eyes narrowing as he studied the holographic display. The Kraviks had seen countless injuries in his 3 decades of service, but nothing quite like this. Sarah winced slightly as he probed the edges of the wound. "It's not that bad, really. I've had worse." That statement made Tavrek's mandibles click in what his species expressed as disbelief. The human had been aboard for only 6 cycles, and already the entire crew whispered about her fragility. Her kind required specific atmospheric conditions, couldn't digest half the standard rations, and their skin bruised at the slightest contact. When she'd first arrived, Captain Giroc had questioned the Council's wisdom in assigning such a delicate species to a deep space exploration vessel. "Dr. Nolan," Tavrek said, his translator rendering his clicks into flat standard, "you were attacked by a Recon spawn. These creatures have dissolved the limbs of Thorian warriors. Yet you—" He gestured at her arm where deep puncture wounds had already begun to scab over. "You fought it off." Sarah shrugged. A gesture Tavrek had learned meant casual dismissal among humans. "I didn't have much choice. It jumped me in the cargo bay." "The bite pattern," Tavrek continued, pulling up another hologram. "I need to log this for the database. We catalog every known predator in the galaxy." His claws danced across the console, accessing the vast repository of xenobiological data. He input the parameters: depth of puncture, spacing of marks, jaw pressure required. The screen flashed red. No match found. Tavrek's head crest rose in confusion. "That's impossible. The database contains over 40 million documented species." He ran the scan again, triple-checking his measurements. No match found. "May I see?" Sarah asked, leaning forward to examine the hologram of her own arm. The bite marks formed a distinctive pattern, but they weren't from the Recon spawn, they were from her own teeth. "These marks here," Tavrek pointed with a foreclaw, "they're not from the creature. They're—" He paused, his medical training warring with his disbelief. "They're from you." Sarah's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "Like I said, it jumped me. I fought back." "You bit it?" Tavrek's voice rose an octave. "You bit of Recon spawn? With your mouth?" "Well, my hands were occupied holding its jaws away from my throat." Tavrek pulled up the scan of the dead creature that security had retrieved from the cargo bay. There on its armored neck were matching marks. The human's teeth had punctured through scales that were rated to withstand small arms fire. "How?" Tavrek breathed. "Your species is classified as non-predatory. Your jaw strength is listed as minimal. You're omnivores with grinding molars, not ripping canines." "We have canines," Sarah pointed out, pulling back her lips to reveal the pointed teeth. They looked absurdly small compared to the damage they'd inflicted. "And when you're desperate enough, you'd be surprised what you can do." Tavrek began pulling up human biological files, data that he'd skimmed when Sarah first arrived. Fragile skin, yes. Weak bones compared to most spacefaring species, certainly. But as he dug deeper, pieces started forming a troubling picture. Humans healed at an accelerated rate. They could function on minimal sleep for extended periods. Their bodies produced adrenaline, a combat stimulant that other species required artificial enhancement to achieve. They could eat foods that would poison most other beings and build immunity to toxins through exposure. "Your planet," Tavrek said slowly. "It's listed as Class 4 Death World. I prefer Earth," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "Everything there tried to kill you. For millions of years." Tavrek's claws clicked rapidly across the console. "Your species didn't develop spaceflight because you're advanced. You developed it because you're survivors." The medical bay doors hissed open. Captain Giroc strode in, his scaled bulk filling the doorway. "Status report." "I heard the human was injured." "She was attacked by a Recon spawn," Tavrek said, not taking his eyes off the data scrolling before him. "She killed it with her teeth." The captain's tail went rigid. "That's not possible. Humans are fragile." "That's what we thought." Tavrek pulled up a comparison chart. "But fragile is relative. Yes, they bruise easily. Their bones break more readily than ours. But they keep fighting through injuries that would incapacitate most species. They have a pain tolerance that borders on insanity." He gestured to Sarah's arm. She has a compound fracture in her ulna, 3 cracked ribs, and significant soft tissue damage. She walked to the medical bay herself and apologized for making a fuss. Captain Jirok stared at the human, who met his gaze without flinching. "Why didn't you report your full capabilities?" "You didn't ask," Sarah said simply. "Everyone assumed fragile meant weak. I figured I'd prove otherwise eventually." Tavrek added a new entry to the galactic database: human bite pattern, classification, unexpected predatory capability. Warning: do not mistake fragility for weakness. "I need to update my reports," Captain Jirok said quietly, and informed the council that their assessment of humanity requires revision. Sarah hopped off the examination table, favoring her injured side but refusing assistance. "Does this mean I can lead the next planetary expedition?" The captain's laugh was a deep rumble. "Dr. Nolan, I'm beginning to think we should be asking your permission to accompany you." As Tavrek watched her leave, he understood something fundamental. Humans weren't fragile despite their soft skin and breakable bones. They were dangerous because of it. They'd evolved on a world that tried to kill them daily, and they'd survived by being too stubborn to die. The galaxy had classified them as weak. The galaxy, Tavrek realized, had made a critical error.